A step towards military autonomy as the U.S. greenlights PAC-3 missile tests on Taiwanese soil.
I'm here at one of Taiwan's largest travel fairs to see what airlines and tour groups are offering as the country continues to ease border restrictions.
A trip that's raising many eyebrows. Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz touches down in Beijing. Plus,
you probably know the Taiwan Strait as a hotspot for regional tension. But did you also know that it's home to an island chain with 90 islands? Today we're in Penghu for the latest in our series, Where's the County Chief Taking Us?
A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Leslie Liao. The U.S. has agreed to let Taiwan test American-made PAC-3 missiles on its own. These missiles would be important in defending against a Chinese attack. John Van Trieste has more.
If China attacks by air, Taiwan is betting on PAC-3 missiles like these to be its defense. They can hit incoming missiles or planes up to 35 kilometers. Taiwan has more than 400 of these missiles deployed in bases across the main island. But until now, testing these missiles has been tricky. The U.S. has only allowed tests on its territory. This has cost Taiwan more than $3 million per missile and required an observation team to be flown across the Pacific. The restriction was over concerns about Chinese military espionage. Now, though, Taiwan's military says the U.S. attitude has changed.
Analysts
see it as a breakthrough. They believe that Chinese spying won't be a deterrent.
我想国军可以有效应对，也就是借由这个监控，还有就是驱离的方法，来把这个中共基建驱离到这个就是它可以征收参数的这个范围之外。
The change in policy comes as the U.S. considers selling Taiwan PAC-3 missiles with an extended range, possibly as early as 2025. When the missiles arrive, Taiwan will be able to test them on its own, a step towards greater military autonomy. Klein Wong and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
South Korea has scrambled 80 aircraft after detecting 180 North Korean warplanes flying close to the two countries' border. This comes as North Korea continues to conduct missile tests and artillery shelling off its coast. Pyongyang says its heightened military activity is a response to ongoing joint U.S. and South Korean air drills. The U.S. and South Korea are extending the drills because of North Korea's aggression. The front-runner candidates for Taipei mayor will face off against each other in a live televised debate on Saturday. The three are former Health Minister Chen Shizong of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, former legislator Jiang Wan-an of the main opposition Kuomintang or KMT, and former Taipei Deputy Mayor Vivian Huang, who is running as an independent. During the two-hour debate, they're expected to cover issues such as traffic problems, urban renewal, and attitudes toward China. The race for Taipei mayor is the highest profile of Taiwan's local elections, which will take place in late November. Taiwan is further easing cross-strait COVID-19 travel rules. Starting next Monday, students from China will be allowed to enter the country for short-term study and exchange programs. Also, residents from Hong Kong and Macau will be allowed into Taiwan as part of tour groups or as individuals coming for business or religious activities. Taiwan first barred entry to people from China, Hong Kong, and Macau in March 2020. Taiwan recently began easing COVID-19 travel restrictions. This means it'll be easier for people to start traveling, and many will be looking for the best travel deals. Jaime Okan was at a travel expo in Taipei where visitors were looking forward to being able to globetrot once again.
Congratulations, 2022!
Welcome to Taiwan's International Travel Fair, one of the largest travel expos in the country. It's being hosted just a few weeks after Taiwan relaxed its COVID-19 border restrictions, lifting mandatory quarantine for people who were arriving. Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen was at the opening ceremony. She said that the country was eager to start welcoming back visitors.
现在我们已经开放，国际旅客一团接着一团的来，
截至10月底，已经有52团来到台湾。我们相信这个复苏的脚会越来越快。
With so many travel options on display, some visitors have felt slightly overwhelmed by the choice of possible destinations.
Europe, Korea. 我会想要去不丹吧，对，因为那是还梦想中的那个名单之一。
The expo comes at a time when interest in travel is growing after more than 2.5 years of COVID restrictions. Airlines say that they are already starting to see air travel return to pre-pandemic levels.
随着我们0+7开放之后，那个人潮很明显的就是增长。那接下来又有跨年，再过来就是我们农历新年，所以我们来到韩国的那个旅客的数字就是不断的往上成长。
New aircraft and airline services were also on show. Taiwan's Starlux displayed its brand new fleet of A350 planes, which officials say will be able to expand its service to Asia's major cities.
Over 1,000 travel stands from 70 different countries are here on display. Deals and packages are being offered to Taiwan citizens who haven't traveled in over 2.5 years due to pandemic border restrictions.
While the exhibition mainly focuses on international travel, it also includes options that are closer to home. A number of exhibits are promoting destinations within Taiwan itself. Tour organizers from the southern city of Pingdong say that domestic travel is a great way to see more of the country and learn about its different cultures.
屏东可能不会是第一个选择啦。对，就我刚刚讲到，就是屏东可能大家想到的还是垦丁，然后大家可能会想要去阿里山或日月潭，或是去花莲。那说到屏东，其实大家的印象可能就是那么少。 所以其实我们来这边也有很大原因是让更多人认识屏东更多丰富的文化，不只是有海，还有山。
Organizers here hope that the travel expo will be another step forward for Taiwan in both moving past the pandemic and readjusting to normal life. Liao and Hamiokon in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
The International Human Rights Conference Oslo Freedom Forum was held in Taipei this week. This is the first the event has taken place in Taiwan since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Ryan Hill-Kilpatrick was at the forum to tell us more.
After a 3-year hiatus, the Oslo Freedom Forum has returned to Taipei. The event has brought some of the world's most celebrated human rights advocates to Taiwan's capital. The New York-based Human Rights Foundation, which organizes the forum, says that Taiwan is the perfect match for the occasion.
As a strong liberal democracy in a region with so many authoritarian regimes, Taiwan was a natural fit to be a capital of human rights and a beacon for others.
This is the third time the Oslo Freedom Forum has brought international human rights leaders to Taiwan. Their presence here buttresses the country's position as a front line for the free world. And for many of the people here, Taiwan's own story, how it moved from autocracy to democracy, is an inspiration that they hope their own countries can follow.
Taiwan's journey continues to inspire our community. Among them, individuals who have been personally targeted by authoritarianism, to become more involved in advancing fundamental freedom in Asia and globally.
While speakers at the half-day event hailed from around the world, most came from the Asia-Pacific region. These included the leader of Thailand's political opposition and high-profile activists from Myanmar, Hong Kong, and China. Despite their different backgrounds, they say they're united by a common struggle.
In the past few years, even though we've seen a major change in the attitude towards the largest authoritarian regime of the world, China. So I think we still need more effort, more united to amass resources to counter the expansion of dictators.
The Chinese footprint is all over the place. All this is interconnected, whether you are in Iran, in Myanmar, in Thailand, in Hong Kong, or in Taiwan.
What we learned from the war in Ukraine is that international community actually has the capacity to take action if they have the political will.
The Human Rights Foundation hopes to make Taiwan an annual stopover in its conference circuit. They also aim to open a new office in the country if they can secure enough local support. As activists increasingly share their experiences and forge new partnerships, events like this help Taiwan cement its role as a hub for defenders of freedom from around the world. Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
China's President Xi Jinping has told German Chancellor Olaf Scholz the two countries should work more closely in, quote, times of change and turmoil. Scholz arrived in Beijing on Friday for a one-day trip, becoming the first G7 leader to visit the country since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. He's being accompanied by several CEOs of major German companies. The trip has proved controversial in the EU. The bloc has recently been more critical of China's human rights record, as well as its position on Taiwan. Critics say Scholz is undermining efforts to reduce German trade reliance on China. Last month, Scholz's administration pushed through a deal that allowed a Chinese company to buy a stake in a terminal at a major German port. To find out more about Scholz's trip to China, our reporter James Chater spoke to Barbara Pongratz, an associate analyst at the Merrick's Institute for China Studies based in Berlin.
Xi Jinping, during the meeting with Olaf Scholz, called on the German Chancellor to deepen ties with China at what he called a time of turmoil. Do you think that's something Olaf Scholz wants to do? And what are his limitations here?
Piece. He has published a piece on the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, a very one of the largest media outlets in Germany. And in this piece, he has basically put forward five thoughts he goes into the conversation with. And one of these thoughts were that we don't want to decouple from China. That's kind of also a move away from the US stance, because there have been definitely signs coming from the US towards decoupling. Diversification, I think right now is the name of the game for the German economy. There's different voices from companies as well who are, for example, saying that they are coming up with diversification strategies, or also in conflict situations with Taiwan, for example, that there are definitely scenarios being developed to diversify.
Do you think other EU countries are now viewing Scholz as an obstacle to arriving at a more unified approach in Europe to China?
So, of course, there has been quite some controversy about the visit, as you said, because of the modalities, first of all. So there could have been better coordination with other EU partners, because the economic delegation he took along with him, there has been some critique about that. The timing and the modalities have been criticized, but no one has really spoken up saying that Scholz should not do the trip. The visit and the way it was planned has clearly put a wedge between France and Germany, for example, because cabinet talks between them were cancelled. The visit might have been a reason for that.
What do you think Scholz's trip means for those more sensitive issues for both Germany and also the European Union, like Taiwan?
On Taiwan, in his article, he says that he finds the situation around Taiwan worrying. In his fourth point, he says that he wants to address sensitive issues such as also human rights concerns or respect for political rights of ethnic minorities, for example. So I think depends really on how he will raise these issues, even though it's still quite unclear how he wants to do that. Probably also looking back again to the government's coalition agreement, where the first time Taiwan was mentioned, where they put forward that any change in the status quo of the Taiwan Strait can only happen peacefully and in mutual agreement within the framework of the One China policy. He's going into these discussions, thinking about these issues, how he will raise them practically is really still open.
Taiwan and India have sealed 3 new deals with industry groups pledging to work together on electronics, green technology, and smart vehicles. The new memorandums of understanding were unveiled at an industrial summit on Thursday. Taiwan is building closer trade ties with India as part of a wider plan to become less dependent on China. Deputy Economics Minister Chen Zhenqi hailed the summit's success in his keynote speech.
So this is a very important platform. We have such platform with other countries, probably 6. But I think the Indian one is the most productive one.
Social media giant Twitter will begin laying off its staff on Friday. The announcement came in a company memo that was emailed to staff yesterday. It follows a week of uncertainty about Twitter's future under new owner Elon Musk. The world's richest man has already fired Twitter CEO and other top executives. Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion late last month. Some reports say he intends to reduce costs by cutting the company's 7,500 strong workforce in half. Authorities in India have banned some diesel trucks from entering New Delhi because of severe air pollution. Delhi has had poor air quality for days, largely due to vehicle emissions and farm fires. Late on Thursday, the country's pollution control board banned trucks carrying non-essential goods from entering the city. All construction and demolition jobs have also been suspended. India's capital has a population of almost 20 million people. When most people think of the Taiwan Strait, they think of it as a hotspot for regional tensions. But it's also home to a beautiful archipelago that contains most of the country's outlying islands. Today, Andrew Ryan is in Penghu for the latest in our series, Where is the County Chief Taking Us?
A pair of hearts used for catching fish, an underwater national park, and a cactus cocktail. These are just some of the things you'll find in Penghu, an island chain once known as the Pescadores, or Fisherman Islands in Portuguese. With over 90 islands, Penghu is the largest archipelago in all of Taiwan. And as you can see, it's a great place for some fun in the sun. But strangely enough, for our first stop today, we're headed somewhere where the sun don't shine. So where's the Penghu County Chief taking us?
这个地方呢，就是龙门的避暑胜地，亮起来了。就是日本啊占领澎湖的时候，我们的村民啊挖出来的一个避暑阵地哦。
That was more than 100 years ago. After the Japanese left in the late 1940s, Taiwan's army took over the tunnel and used it as a base for preventing beach landings by Chinese troops. The county chief gives me a tour of the underground labyrinth, which is more than 700 meters long. In some places, it's only 60 centimeters wide. And with the soundtrack of explosives piped in on speakers, it feels like we've landed in a Cold War movie. The tunnel can hold 150 soldiers, and there's everything from a kitchen to a munitions depot and bunkers for sharpshooters. Now what's fascinating is the tunnel fell into disuse and lay hidden underground for years until it was discovered in 2009. They opened it up to the public in 2020, a century after it was first built. And the descendants of the people who dug the tunnels, well, they're now the caretakers. They cleaned up the area above ground and gave it the name Marine Debris Park.
你看那个都很便宜的东西啊，都是海灰啊，海上飘来的，捡回来的，这样子把它一点一滴把它做成。海灰是国际的潮流，但是呢，澎湖人呐，在地球的这一个小角落，每个人呐都弯下腰来，然后把海灰捡起来。
The county is also preparing to welcome back, get this, cruise ships.
我们现在呢，已经在盖这个深水码头。 那么将来可以停国际邮轮大概是75000吨。
So what can tourists do in Penghu? The obvious answer is water sports. But the county chief says there's a good reason why you might want to come for the culture too.
澎湖的历史文化是早于台湾。澎湖呢有4次战争，第1次跟第2次都是跟荷兰。 那么澎湖呢，在400多年以前呢，就开始接触到西方的文物。第3次呢，是法国来占领澎湖。第4次呢，就是日本。
所以其实澎湖从很早以前就跟国际接轨过。对。Penghu is also home to Taiwan's oldest temple dedicated to Matsu, the goddess of the sea. She's revered by seafaring peoples across Asia. So it's no surprise that she's popular in a place where boating, fishing, and seafood are all part of everyday life. Now, no trip to Penghu would be complete without some island hopping, but don't expect to visit all 90 islands.
有些无人岛你是没有办法上去的，像我们那个东海啊，很多岛啊，都是冤鸥啊，怨鸥他们繁殖的地方，那个都是环保区，不能上去啊。有一些是迁村了，大概我如果有印象的话，大概20几个岛上去过了。
Liao suggests a trip to see one of Penghu's most iconic symbols.
七美啊，一个很有名的就是双星石斧，在古早以前呢，我们澎湖祖先的智慧，他把石斧围好了以后，在石中捉鱼。
Before I leave Penghu, I decide to visit the historic village of Arkan on the island of Xiyu. It's a 400-year-old settlement that's home to the Chen family. One of the Chens, Chen Lijun, has been making drinks from prickly pears, the local cactus fruit. She pairs them with ingredients like pineapples, lemons, and yogurt.
那还可以加就是啤酒嘛哈，就像调酒，像鸡尾酒，它叫梦中情人。
是喝完之后你就会遇到你的梦中情人吗？
对，应该哦。
Cheers. That's delicious. Has a little bit of a kick because of the alcohol. It's got some lemon to make it nice and sour. And of course the beautiful red fruit, this prickly pear, which everybody just calls cactus here. Great stuff. Thank you. There's one final stop in my trip to Penghu, a place called Daguoye at the southern tip of Xiyu. It's home to a breathtaking expanse of volcanic rock.
澎湖遍地都是玄武岩啊，柱状玄武岩很漂亮哈。澎湖呢，事实上就是上帝的石雕公园，在于这种地形地势啊，这个老外就会赞赏不绝了。
What's amazing about these rock formations is that they lay hidden below the surface of the earth for centuries. It wasn't until the Japanese came here in the early 1900s and began digging to create a harbor that they discovered these magnificent columns. And that's what I love about Penghu. You may come here prepared with all sorts of things to do while you're here, but every time, without fail, there are new things waiting for you to discover. Kama Xu, Alex Chen, Peachy Drong, and Andrew Ryan for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's biggest international film festival held its opening night on Wednesday. The Golden Horse is an annual event which leads up to the biggest award ceremony in Chinese language cinema. And this year, people with blindness or low vision could enjoy the festival's premiere alongside with their sighted friends. Sash Butler reports.
Attendants fit headphones to moviegoers. It's the opening night of Taiwan's top film festival, and for the first time, people who are blind or partially sighted can enjoy it thanks to personal audio descriptions.
蛮新的体验，有时间的话都想要体验看看啦。
大众都会来的影厅看，就觉得也蛮惊喜的，然后也蛮开心的。然后我也可以和我朋友一起看，我朋友不需要口述。
The Golden Horse Film Festival has been working on synchronized audio descriptions since 2020. This is the first time the technology has been used on opening night.
能够接触这种大众所关注的主题，对他们来说其实非常重要的。能够在金马的开幕片里面呢，能够首映，然后有口述影像版，其实对我们来说真的是一个梦想达成的时刻。
The Golden Horse Awards feature the very best of Chinese language cinema. Now, synchronized audio descriptions and greater accessibility mean that the world-class event can be enjoyed by an even wider audience. Patrick Chen and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
The Taishin Women-run Taipei, a running event for women, will restart in April next year. This year's event was canceled because of pandemic restrictions. And ahead of the main event, a race in Kaohsiung will be included for the first time. Runners at the Taipei event can choose between a 3-kilometer, 10-kilometer, or half-marathon course. The central Taiwan city of Taichung will play host to a leg of next year's World Baseball Classic. It's the first time in a decade that Taichung has had the honor of hosting the international baseball tournament. Play ball! The World Baseball Classic is coming back to Taiwan. The central city of Taichung will host part of the tournament next March. It's the first time in a decade the Classic will be held in the country. Typically, the international tournament is held once every 4 years. But the 2021 event was postponed until 2023 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Next year, 20 countries will compete against each other for the title of the world's best baseball team. Teams in the World Baseball Classic are divided into 4 different pools. Taiwan is in Pool A along with the Netherlands, Cuba, Italy, and Panama.
那么不但在台湾举行，而且我们也能够获选加入哈。那我们有机会在世界的舞台上来较劲，争取佳绩哈，当然非常重要。
The other pools will compete in Japan and the U.S. The victors will go on to play at the championships in Florida. Baseball is Taiwan's national sport, and next year the country's players will get the chance to show the rest of the world what they've got. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with images of Palestinian bachelor parties in the West Bank. In the traditional celebrations, guests throw eggs, oil, ketchup, and flour on the grooms while dancing and singing. You know what? I think I've made that recipe before. I'm Liao. Take care and see you next time.